and welcome to the January 9th, 2019 first council work session. Welcome back, everybody, and good to have you all. So we had a first order of business, which was to vote for the election of council officers, and there's a process concern about that, so I'll turn it over to you, Catherine.
Yes, and I'm going to resist the urge to say there's a minor hitch in the giddy up, but.
I like that.
So the charter provides that the election of your officers occur at your first regular meeting. It is the council's purview to decide what their regular meetings are, and you, through your operating agreements, have said that your regular meetings are, in fact, your 7:30 Monday meetings. So this has occurred before because there's been some desires over the years to have the officers elected at your first meeting, whether it's a regular meeting or not. So the way that was handled was, you can absolutely elect your officers today, and then you'll just see it again on your consent agenda, and you'll redo it on Monday, or you could wait until Monday for your 7:30 meeting. It's totally up to you, but if you choose to do it today, just know you'll see that on your consent agenda, because that will be the official, this is kind of the lead-in, and then you'll do it again on Monday.
So my process question is, the council president sits here, the vice president sits there, are we then shuffling?
After.
We would change after, so even if we voted on it today, on Monday, Mike would still be sitting in the.
Even on
No,
Monday?
even on Monday, it would change, it wouldn't matter.
We'd change on Monday. I mean, it's still
We
the
change
action.
Meeting after, we always have.
Right, but on Monday, you would come and wouldn't be in that. If you act today, you're still acting, it's just you have to kind of redo it just for purposes of clarity under the charter. That's really the only thing. And so you would still
We
be,
switch all the chairs on Monday too?
I don't know the answer to
Those
that.
occur simultaneously.
Then yes, it would all happen if you act on, and Beth Forrest might be in a better position to answer this question. I don't know the chair answer.
It's always been the next meeting.
So if you wait and don't take action today, then you'll be in this location on Monday. If you take action today, even though you'll redo it at your 7:30 consent agenda, your chairs will have moved for Monday.
Is there any other questions, comments? So I think we need to vote
On whether you want to act
on whether
today.
we want to act today. Do
That's
we
fine,
need
you can do
clarity on
that.
that, or, I mean,
No problem.
or I'd like to know a sense, in some way, I'd like to know a sense of the council whether you want to act
Wait,
today.
do it once.
Wait,
That's officially
okay.
with the budget.
Wants to do it
Oh, good, great.
Hello, I'm on.
Monday. It doesn't make sense.
Good to have you. So we're just talking about delaying the election of officers until Monday because in your operating agreements, council has agreed to do it at the first regular meeting, which is the 7:30 Monday meeting, okay?
Okay.
All right, and everybody's good with that?
Except Betty.
Except Betty.
Yep.
I just think it'd be cleaner to
Move the chair.
move the chairs. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's one meeting and it's just a little bonus. It's a lagniappe, as they say
Ask Mike what he
in New
wants.
Orleans. So just a little bonus meeting, and I think that's fine. So we don't need to vote on that. It's the sense of the council's clear. All right, great. So let's move on to the next order of business. Municipal Court Presiding Judge.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name's Carrie Baraldo, and I'm the interim HR director. And my role, exciting role, is to support you in the selection process for the next presiding municipal court judge. So as you're all aware, Judge Allen retired effective December 31st. We do have our current contract with Associate Judge Greg Gill allows him to serve in that interim presiding role through the end of June 2019. So we have a little bit of time. Today, what I'm here to do is really give you a brief overview of the structure and the selection process for the municipal court position, and really to hear from you what your questions would be, what information you want to provide for me so that I could go back and become better informed and return to a future work session and provide you with some more detailed options around what that selection process will look like. So in terms of structure, the presiding judge performs and oversees all the judicial functions of the Eugene Municipal Court, And historically, the presiding judge has been an independent contractor. They're paid a set hourly rate as well as an additional monthly amount to attend municipal court meetings. The selection process is actually outlined in code. Code was originally written in 1977 with Judge Allen appointed in 1994. So I think it's a good opportunity to look at that. The code does call for this position to be filled as an independent contractor, and it outlines a detailed appointment process. So since that time, I know that we've adopted different processes for appointing other council employees, such as a police auditor, and we've used those successfully as well. So again, today, I'm really looking for direction in terms of what you all would want to see in that selection process moving forward. And then just additionally, I would add, I know with the auditor position, and historically, we have often used a council subgroup to work with staff on reviewing some of the additional components, such as job description, salary placement, and those types of things. So that may be something that you would want to consider as well. But otherwise, the other thing I guess I would ask is that I did include a few options in the AIS. I'm happy to review those orally, or if you have them in front of you. Do you want me to go over them?
Why don't you go ahead and review those?
Okay. So a couple options that you may want to think about is you could keep the current process as established in code and still hire the presiding judge as an independent contractor, so no change, and just move forward with that selection process. You could amend the code and hire the presiding judge as an independent contractor, but you could come up with a different process of what you would want that to look like, so different than what is in the code today. Additionally, you could amend the code and hire the presiding judge as a regular city employee as opposed to an independent contractor. And again, you could set your predetermined process to work the way that you would want that to look. So those are a couple options. There may be others that you would want to share or talk about.
Okay, I have Mike in the queue, and there. Chris, okay, Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I, for one, want to make sure that we keep the delineation of the council's 3 employees as clear as possible. We and the police auditor, I suppose, are technically classified as city employees. Is that true, Mr. Manager?
I'm sorry.
I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
the
should
police
ask you.
auditor, yes, is a council employee.
No, my question is, city councilors and the police auditor are technically city employees. Is that correct? I want you to differentiate what you meant by city
I
employee.
might have to clarify that in terms of council. Police auditor for sure is a city employee.
Okay, because they're actually employed entirely by the council, but they're a city employee, much like we get a check from the city
Correct. They
as
are
a stipend.
clearly a
So
city
we're
employee.
technically city employees as well. I like the system that we had. Here's my biggest question though. Do we have the, excuse me, let me ask one question first. Was the municipal court established in 77 initially? Is that the beginning
No,
of it?
the 77 is actually it was, those code provisions, I'm sure, were in effect prior to 77. 77 is when everything kind of rolled into this,
Was that when we hired Judge Bocci?
I have no idea.
Anybody? Okay, I'm getting a maybe, something like that, yeah. Because we've had 2 in the last 40-some years. My question is, will they be available to consult with council during the process of us hiring full-time? I like the interim gentleman very much, but I just wonder.
I would think that Judge Allen would definitely be available and want to provide input.
I'd be interested in knowing whether Judge Bocci is available or has that opportunity as well to consult.
Okay.
Thank you.
Claire.
Thank you. So, I mean, I agree with Councilor Clark in terms of the position remaining hired directly by the council position. I am interested in seeing if there's support amongst council to consider the option of moving away from the independent contractor model into a salaried model, which I think would I imagine, would kind of modernize the position for us. I think it's a little bit of a throwback, but I don't know what other municipal courts do in terms of how a judge is appointed if that independent contractor model is the norm. In that model of an independent contractor, was it a 1.0 FTE?
The presiding judge was not, no. It would have been the equivalent to close to a part-time, yeah.
So 0.5, 0.75?
Approximately around 960 hours annually. So.
So I think that would, I think that would be a question we would want to explore. Is it a 0.5 FTE salaried, or if we're going to keep it 0.5, if that's the workload that's there, or is there more workload?
I think that there is actually workload to necessitate a full-time presiding judge.
Yeah, so it seems to me that there are enough questions that forming some kind of subcommittee would make sense to look into what is the workload expectations, with support from your department, what are some salary ranges that we should be considering, what would a position posting and hiring process look like? But those are the things I'm interested in having this council look into.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I think when this was first done back in the 70s, that was kind of the model that was probably popular. I know the city attorney, for example, was a contract employee, and that many functions were contracted. Things have evolved, things have changed, and I think it would be important for the city to say that its municipal court function is significant enough to the city that its principal employees should be part of the city. But I agree it should be supervised by the city council. That model we already have, so we can make that model work. Not a problem at all. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to do those kinds of updating when we're doing the transition from one judge to another. I think the notion of having a committee to explore what the particulars about that might be is a good idea. I don't think they have to spend an enormous amount of time on this. I think we can get back fairly quickly. It's great that we have a judge in place who can act in a temporary capacity until we can hire somebody. Exactly what that hiring process needs to be, I don't know. That's where some input on what best practices are and what happens in other areas would be very helpful. So I like where this conversation is going. I think they need to be a city employee supervised by the city council, just as we have with our auditor and our city manager. That moves us into a salary consideration, which I think is also probably a much more useful thing to do, to pay somebody by the hour. I think that's fine. So I think we should designate a committee. I don't know who would designate, whether it be the mayor or the council or whomever, but whoever does the designating, we should probably get going on it sooner rather than later.
And can I jump in and just say one thing, and I don't hear anybody on the council going there, but just for clarity purposes, it's not something that is changeable to not have the municipal court presiding judge be hired and answer to the council. That's actually in your charter, so you don't need to even worry if that's something you do or don't want to do. Like I said, I don't hear anyone saying that, but
Yeah.
it's in the charter.
Done?
Done.
Emily?
Thank you. I agree pretty much with everybody. I think since it hasn't been looked at since '77, and I certainly haven't looked at it, I think it's timely to review it. And if people have special areas they want to look at, I think that's great. And boy, if I was the judge, I'd rather have a salary I could depend on. And I bet you we do need a full-time equivalent. Having not gone through this sort of thing of hiring a manager or auditor or a judge, who applies? How does it work? Do we give interview questions? Could I just have a brief overview of how that process goes? Because, I don't have time to write ads and figure out where to put them out. So how does that work?
So it depends. If you were to make a decision to have an employee judge, we would do a recruitment process that council would actually develop. So it can be as robust as, dare I say, the police chief recruitment process, or it could be something smaller. So it's something that you would develop, but yeah, you would advertise, solicit applications, and my role would be to support through all of that. So I would be doing the majority of the work based on what your process that you outlined and directed for me to do. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much. Would we have a time where, we would meet and interview
Correct.
the different ones? And who applies for this? I don't know. How, miscellaneous attorneys, other judges, how does this work?
More than likely, it's probably going to be attorneys. It could be other judges, but you would have to be with the Oregon State Bar, so you would probably be someone who is licensed to practice in Oregon. It could be somebody from another state that is also licensed to practice, but that is typically what you would see.
I'm looking forward to this. It should be fascinating.
Yeah.
Mike has asked for, oh, Betty, here we go. Your turn.
Thank you. Mike wants to go again, huh?
Just one little last question.
What was I going to say? Oh, I don't think we needed a special committee. I think the entire council could discuss it. And I wondered, I was going to ask, would we take applications? I wasn't, the same judge has been there all the time I've been on the council, so I don't know. Would it be similar to hiring the city manager?
Yes, it could be. It could be similar to what we did for the police auditor as well as the city manager. I think that you also could determine that if you wanted to direct appoint, that's always an option. So you do have options. And when I refer to direct appoint, it would be direct appointing someone that's serving that role. But those are all options that are at your guys'.
Do we have a list of qualifications?
We would, yeah. Yeah, we would have an updated job description to really outline what the work would be. We would have requirements that folks would be needing to meet before they apply for the position, and we would solicit applications and have a whole hiring committee or selection committee, and that could consist of all of you, it can consist of other folks. I know in the current code, they outline several community partners that would be a part of that selection process, so there's a lot of options.
It would probably cost more if we had a salary, right?
For long-term? Salary versus
retirement, things like
independent
that.
contractor. I think that there could be cost savings having an employee, Judge. When you're looking at paying somebody hourly versus having the flexibility of having somebody able to work 20, 80 hours in a calendar year and getting a salary for that. So there is an increased cost in terms of health insurance that you're paying for, but when you're comparing it to what you're paying for the hourly, there would likely be a cost savings.
And
I'm
haven't
happy
seen
to
us-
gather, and I'm happy to gather that additional information to be able to.
Haven't seen us do any supervision.
I'm sorry?
Haven't seen us do any supervision of the judge.
Yep, so that's something that you all could look at incorporating similar to how you operate with
Currently, I
the
don't think we
auditor.
do any supervision,
Okay,
not that I've ever seen. I do know that if we're in trouble, he can't judge us. For some reason. Okay, that's all, except I do think it should be the entire council. Thank you.
Okay, I have Mike and Claire both for the second round.
Although we can serve on municipal jury duty, I have heard. I don't know, I haven't done it, but
I've been called for
That's
that,
interesting.
but I've also been dismissed.
yeah, yeah, we'll go there. Not going there. The other judges, the other municipal judges that work for the court, are they city employees?
they are all contractors.
So if we're changing it for one, we're changing it for all?
No, not necessarily. We're only looking at the presiding judge.
Okay. The other difference for me would be that I would think with the auditor and with the manager, that was a nationwide search, and I would think this would much more likely be a statewide search.
Likely because of the needing to be a member of the Oregon
So
State Bar.
less expensive maybe in that, or at least a little bit less robust in that fashion. I would very much like to have the advice of at least Judge Allen
Okay,
in this process, and to know if he had his hand in building a better way that, we all interact with one another, what would that look like? I'd love to know that from him. The other thing would be that all of us meet with the manager once a month, the council president and vice president meet with the auditor once a month, and I would like to see us change so that at least the council officers meet with the judge once a month for check-in, and so we have a closer connection to what's occurring at the court.
sure.
Thank you.
Claire?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea. So would that be something we could just build into our council working agreements, or would it have to be enshrined in some formal?
I don't think so. I think it could just be in the working agreements, correct, Catherine?
Yeah, it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I also like Betty's suggestion of having the whole council do the process.
too.
I think it's not such a huge volume of information that, one well-prepared work session, we could
Okay.
probably work through, I think, most of it. Are we required to do a candidate search? Is that required in terms of filling this position?
Well, currently as code is written, we would follow that unless there was a code amendment. If there's a code amendment, the draft code amendment that we provided could provide you with flexibility of how you did that search.
So currently, as it's
Yeah,
set up with
yes.
the independent contractor, we would be required
To do a
to
search.
follow that search. If we create a new process, we could say we can choose to do the search or not choose
Correct.
to do a search.
That's correct.
Depending on what majority thing.
Yep,
Okay,
that's correct.
thank you.
Okay, Emily.
Just a quick question. Does the presiding judge hire the other judges?
They do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, we need to, we need a motion
One more
and-
question.
and- Okay, one more question, and just to clarify, it looks like we may have a motion to pursue this, but as a whole council, as opposed to a subgroup. Do you have a?
We don't have a proposed motion
Right.
for you. I think short of direction otherwise, Carrie will be coming back and we'll have another work session that will be robust and.
Okay, perfect.
And I can bring a lot of the information that was helpful to kind of hear your thoughts and questions, and I can come back better prepared to provide those options.
Okay, and Betty, did you have one more?
Yes, I did, after what Emily said reminded me. If the judge hires the other judges, would we be supervising his hiring of the judges?
No. He would hire them. They are independent contractors, so he would do that. You would
So we
supervise
wouldn't have
him.
any authority over that, or any authority, any ability to express our opinion about his
I
hiring?
think you could express your opinion as you would with somebody who reports to you, so you could give your input. Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
That it would be comparable to the auditor hiring his own staff.
Yes.
And then we review the auditor's performance, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've given, council's given enough clarity. Thank you very much. It's going to be, I agree with Emily, it's going to be an interesting process to go through for the first time, so thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Mike is no longer president. Does he still got that basket?
Oh, right. Oh, right.
Right in front of you.
Okay,
Eddie, I'm choosing to ignore you again.
we are now going to go into executive session. The Eugene City Council will now meet in executive session held pursuant to ORS 192.6602I to discuss performance evaluations of public officers and employees.
No.
No.
No?
This is the wrong text.
Wondered who that was.
We just did that. We're going into an executive session.
Here we go.
Maybe this one is right.
Pursuant to 192.
It's on the old one. It's on the, it says performance evaluation, wait a second, it's 3.
Oh, you're right.
I've got the
But it's
wrong, I
pursuant
don't
to,
have the
not-
correct motion.
It's pursuant to those, ORS.
No, this still says performance evaluations. I don't have the right.
What is it around?
It's around the accessory dwelling units.
So it is to consider written legal advice and pending or threatened legal action. We do need to have you recite the statutory subsections.
Beth is
Wrecking them down.
This will be fun.
Great start.
Noticed correctly, so that's not a problem. 2H and 2F are the right statutory provisions.
Oh,
Is the citation?
Pesky words.
Here we go.
Council Jeopardy. Gone into the bonus round.
oh, they changed the line.
Hello? Am I still there?
Yes.
Did Mike cut me off, huh?
Welcome to the final Jeopardy round.
I just need to give the correct ORS.
Right,
Yep.
it's just
Okay.
listed there, it's just, it's not.
I love it when you take notes and you have no idea what you were taking notes about.
That's right, Chris. Tell him what he's won.
I have no idea what this entire page is about. Oh, okay.
Was that the last time we
No,
talked?
that's not it.
Counselor
That's
Gay?
the first note you need to put on it, what it's about.
I at least started getting the dates on. That helps a little bit.
Okay, I'll say what I'm going to say, and then you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so now we're going into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602H and ORS 192.6602F.
That's good.
And that's enough. Thank you.
And those are, I can just specifically tell you, those are to
did
discuss
already.
legal counsel and exempt public records.
Yep.
She said.
Got it, sorry. And then-
So.